Good morning, everybody. I'm Bear with BearIndependent.com, and today we're going to do the brief. If you're new here, consider subscribing. You're going to need this information to navigate the thermonuclear war that's coming. If you're not new here, you know what to do. Share the show. If everybody in the Bear Nation shared this to one person, we could double the size of the Bear Nation like that. Things to think about. Bear Independent Brief, 14 September 22. The loss of Russian gas to Europe is now affecting the global supply, increasing competition for available resources. Europe is being hit first and hardest. Previously, 90% of all European Union gas was imported. 90% was imported, and 45% of that was from Russia. Now, there's a gaping hole in the energy requirements across the European Union, which creates a huge increase in competitive demand across the world. As far as Europe is concerned, there's not sufficient infrastructure for the United States to replace such a massive need from across the ocean. Transportation of the gas simply doesn't have the correct infrastructure in place. The cold storage equipment necessary for liquid natural gas, for example, doesn't just come from thin air. Europeans are watching their bills go up drastically, often beyond affordability, and they are already being warned of coming winter blackouts. A couple of thoughts here real quick. First of all, if anybody has a 9 out of 10 stranglehold on any of your resources, 90% of your gas is imported, you have a pre-existing supply chain issue. That's a critical oversight on the part of Europe, something we've talked about over and over again. Now, you may be saying, I don't live in Europe. What's the point, Bear? A couple of points there. The first is the national supply of liquefied natural gas is being affected because of this, which is going to drive prices up everywhere around the world, in Topeka, Kansas, not just in Kiev, okay? So be aware of that. If you have the ability to make moves now before that price continues to climb, be gone, bug. Go for it. The second is, on your lunch break today, take 10 minutes, take a sheet of paper and start writing down, where are all the critical failure points in your supply chains for your house? Your house, your land, your property, your mutual assistance group, that's your little country right there. Who has a stranglehold over you, and with what? And then how do you mitigate that? Because I think we're going to continue to see worsening supply chain issues for the next couple of years. I only think we're just beginning to start to have to pay the price for ice cream grandpa and the morons in office currently. We're just beginning to pay that price. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. So what gaping holes in your supply chain, what strangleholds on your ability to stay alive exist in your current living situation? The next is winter blackouts. It is not enjoyable, but it's entirely possible to survive inside of your house, a four-walled, hard-sided structure, wearing clothes and sleeping under a pile of blankets. Are pipes going to freeze? Yeah. Is it going to be difficult to cook? Yeah. Is it going to be enjoyable? No. But it is survivable. And so you might want to be thinking about what can you do if there's going to be rolling blackouts. Because right now we're talking about Europe, but it's entirely possible in the United States as well. If they're rolling blackouts, what plans do you have? How do you stay warm? How do you keep your kids warm? In your house, not just out of your house, but in your house. Now, the president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, said in a speech earlier this month, quote, "The electricity market is no longer a functioning market because there's one actor, Putin, who is systematically trying to destroy it and to manipulate it," end quote. Now, that's not entirely true. Is Putin a jerk? Yeah, well, it depends on what side you're on and what your politics are on. But could he be seen as the jerk? Absolutely. Did Putin implement all this ridiculous green energy in Europe? No. Did Putin shut down their nuclear power plants? No. Did Putin put a stranglehold on their gas supply? No, they agreed to that. That was their mistake. Is Putin a bad actor? Pretty much, yeah. Depending on, which side, which worldview you look at here. Yeah, for sure. Is he acting in his best interest? Yes. The difference is his best interest and Europe's best interests are not aligned. But Putin didn't shut down their power plants, their nuclear power plants. Putin didn't force Germany, which is dark and wet, generally speaking, to invest in solar energy and doesn't have a whole lot of wind to invest in wind turbines. Right? Like, renewable energy represents less than 10% of the generational capacity in Germany. Yet it represents 90% of the investment in the electrical grid in Germany currently. That's sheer stupidity. That's just stupid. Putin didn't do that. So, back to the brief. Just last week at the Eastern Economics Forum, Putin threatened, quote, "We will not supply anything at all if it contradicts our interests. We will not supply gas, oil, coal, heating oil. We will not supply anything. We would only have one thing left to do. As in the famous Russian fairy tale, we would let the wolf's tail freeze." End quote. Make no mistake, this is warfare. It's just warfare of a different type. And don't worry, we're going to talk about Russia and Ukraine in a moment. Ultimately, this struggle for energy in Europe may determine whether the Western stance against Russia is strengthened and united or weakened and dissolved. We've been talking about this for months. Come winter, all these saber rattlers in Europe are going to lose the steam in their engines. They're not going to be nearly as interested in being at war with Putin because of the stranglehold that he has on them. From an outsider's perspective, smart move on his part. Again, is he a jerk? Depends on who you are. Depends on what you think. I grew up in the days of G.I. Joe and M81 Woodland. The Russians were bad guys, right? Like, were bad guys for sure.
And they couldn't aim.
No, they're terrible at aiming. Also, you think about like Wolverines, right? Come on. Like, there's definitely a certain level of patriotic indoctrination that took place during my youth, But all governments act in their best interest. You should onboard that concept because if you look at the behavior of the United States government against certain subsets of its own population, remember, all governments act in their own best interest. Why are certain people labeled domestic terrorists? You ever think about that? It's because when you put the label of terrorist on somebody, that opens up resources and courses of action that otherwise wouldn't be available to said governance. Yeah. Ooh, too deep? Did we go a little too deep on that one? I thought we were talking about Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah, but look at California. Look at the water supply. Look at they're controlling their heating and air conditioning.
I try
remotely.
not. I try not to look at California if I can help it.
For everyone that's on that's watching this now, is like, yeah, but that's over there. What about here?
Yep.
That's what's going on here. Once California, that whole West Coast gets hit, it's going to echo its way back across to the East Coast.
What about when Texas lost power for 3 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Texas has its own grid. That is horseshit, by the way. There is a grid that exists in Texas that was built by energy companies in Texas, but it is interconnected with the remainder of the country. How do I know? I built a large portion of it. There's over 1,000 miles of highline in Oklahoma that was put in specifically to be able to move electricity, to move excess energy, because Texas is a net energy exporter, to move that product out of the Texas grid and into the national grids, the eastern grid, the western grid, etc. Because if you had a net gain, a surplus in those resources, why not sell them on the open market? So this whole Texas has its own grid thing. Sure, it's like saying, I got my own car. Where does the gas come from? Doesn't matter you got your own car or not, right? Yeah, it's still tied into the remainder of the system.
No electricity, can't pump the gas out, and no electricity, can't charge your electric car.
Well, yeah. California's having a good time with that right now as well. Ultimately, the struggle for energy in Europe may determine whether the Western stance against Russia is strengthened and united or weakened and dissolved. Some White House officials believe Putin's actions are only increasing European animosity towards Russia, but others say that as the situation worsens and worsens, the public may turn against the Western agenda under pressure. I think that's what's likely to happen. They will fold. Will Western sanctions against Russia be blamed, or will Putin alone be the face behind the cold, dark winter? CIA Director William Burns said recently, quote, Putin's bet is that he's going to be tougher than the Ukrainians and the Europeans and the Americans, that he can wear down the Ukrainians, strangle their economy, and that the Europeans, facing what's going to be a difficult winter with high energy prices, are going to lose resolve. End quote. Now we're going to look at one of the links that's in the brief. If you're on Patreon, you have it. By the way, welcome to all the new patrons. Appreciate you very much for joining us. From MSN.com, in Ukraine, the tables have turned. Opinion piece by Ian Bremer. In the province that surrounds Kharkiv, Ukraine's second city, an attack reportedly meant to probe for weakness in Russian lines became a major counteroffensive when thousands of Russian soldiers simply turned and fled. All reports are currently, and again, we have to be careful with the sources because just because you heard something on the internet, or God forbid you heard it on the television, doesn't make it true, right? And reporting out of that region, out of Ukraine, is incredibly unreliable. That's been one of the challenges since February 24, 2022, which that date is something we're going to look at as well here in a moment. But reporting has been very difficult to get accurate reporting out of that area. Back to the article. In the past week, Ukraine has regained more territory than Russia has captured in months, and the mood of its political and military leaders has turned dramatically upbeat. Russian artillery attacks that briefly knocked out power and water in parts of Ukraine have done little to dampen the mood. Earlier this week, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky used the social media site Telegram to ask Russians some pointed questions. Quote, do you still think that we, Russians and Ukrainians, are one people? Do you still think that you can scare us or break us? We will be without gas, light, water, and food, and without you. End quote. Bravado. Just as Ukraine demonstrated in the war's early weeks that Russian victory plans were pure delusion, their latest gains again make it clear that Vladimir Putin's war refuses to go according to plan. Importantly, they show Ukraine's backers in America and Europe that its war efforts remain an investment that offers returns. Ukrainian fighters have used Western weapons and training in how to use, protect, and maintain them to push Russian forces onto the back foot in different parts of the country. Here, the timing is crucial. An expected tough winter in Europe, created in part by an energy crisis fueled by the war, is expected to test European public patience with costly support for Kiev. Ukraine's gains can make that support easier for European leaders to sell at home. Inside Russia, the mood continues to sour. Criticism of battlefield failures remains safely directed at Russia's Defense Department, not at the president himself, who pushed the generals into a war they were ill-prepared to wage. Complaints from Russian nationalists have grown louder. Chechen strongman Ramzan Kadyrov, a valuable contributor of troops to Putin's army, has publicly warned the Russian brass that further failure will lead him to have a word with Russia's president. Yet Ukraine's latest success is unlikely to shorten the war. New confidence in Kiev and public hand-wringing among Russians and their allies aside, Russian forces still have a firm grip on much of the Donbas region, on land seized along the Black Sea coast, and on territory that connects them together. More worrisome, Ukraine's advance may also make the war more dangerous. Putin now finds himself in a tight spot that should worry those who fear expansion of the war. This is the important part of this article, or we're getting there. Russia's president has shown no sign in his political life that he will admit a mistake, certainly not one as big as this war, and reverse course. And though he insists Russia is at war with the West and its military alliance, a claim made more credible by Western military and financial backing for Ukraine's army, he has avoided changing the rules of engagement to widen the conflict beyond Ukraine's borders. His government continues to threaten any Russian who describes the war as a war, with 15 years in prison, and he has refused the demands of Russian online hawks to order a draft that forces hundreds of thousands of Russian civilians to grab a rifle. Perhaps he fears conscription would dramatically shift Russian public opinion against his special military operation, or perhaps he knows that given the need to train and equip all these new soldiers, a large-scale draft is too little too late to force an end to the stalemate in Ukraine anytime soon. This leaves the West to worry that Putin, like the famous rat he trapped as a child who chose to fight once backed into a corner, will turn to weapons of mass destruction he has so far kept in reserve. Ukraine's gains of the past week have shifted the military stalemate, but the end of the war remains out of reach. And that's the key phrase in all of this. That Putin will turn to weapons of mass destruction he has so far kept in reserve. Again, and a lot of people, the commentary on this, that's the crux of the issue. But what happens if Putin goes to nukes? The challenge with that, and it's perhaps a valid concern, possibility versus probability. The possibility has always been there. The probability ebbs and flows depending on the news out of Ukraine every day. But the probability is probably higher right now. What do you do, Bear? The same stuff I've been telling you guys since February. Don't be where it is. But you don't understand, I can't. No, I do understand. I did strategically relocate. And it wasn't easy. Wife, 3 kids, grandma, driving 200 miles each way just to keep my job, to be able to pay for this place. I get it. Life's tough. Be tougher. If you're legitimately concerned about warheads on foreheads, you live in the wrong place. It just is what it is. And don't play that victim of circumstance card either. You forget that you were fearfully and wonderfully made specifically for this time. And if you would quit capitulating, quit breaking promises to yourself, you probably would have accomplished a whole hell of a lot more in your life thus far, instead of making excuses every day. You can if you want to. You certainly have time and resources to do all the other shit you want to do. But now all of a sudden you don't have time and resources for that. Not buying it.
People don't understand sacrifice, true sacrifice.
No, they don't. We are all spoiled. We can all do better. Now, a German legislator has warned that September 24th will be a date that everybody remembers exactly where he or she was, end quote. Seen a lot of rumors about this, a lot of that going around. It appears that the translation was bad, and that this German legislator meant to say February 24th, which was the date that this war in Ukraine started, not September 24th. So there's a lot of people pontificating on what's going to happen on September 24th. This German legislator must know. His inside job. He knows what's coming. Now, interestingly, might be something coming, but it also appears that his translator sucks. And he meant to say February 24th, 2022, which was the official date of the start of the war in Ukraine. Now, this one article I found regarding this was interesting. The month of Elul this year, Elul 29 begins at sundown on September 24th, and it runs until sundown September 25th. Blah, 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 detailed in the previous article. We witnessed the worst stock market crash in U.S. history up to that time on Elul 29 in 2001. So same date as the 2001 stock market crash. And that was the worst stock market crash in history until the same date in 2008. And then In 2015, stock market was closed on Sunday, so that same date, no record was going to be broken on that date. Blah, blah, blah. In 2022, Elul 29 once again falls on a Sunday, so there will be no stock market crash on that day either. However, the day after, the 25th of September, might be something to pay attention to as far as the stock market crash is concerned. Not because this German legislator meant to say September 24th, or meant to say February 24th, and instead said September 24th, but because there's a 7-8 year pattern here of boom and bust with stock market crashes, and that particular day happens to be the day after September 24th. So, might want to keep an eye on that. Now, that's the brief for today. If you're on Patreon, you have links to all this stuff. If you're not on Patreon, you don't. It's $5 a month. We're also giving away an epic loot box this month. At the end of this month, we will select one winner from Patreon with over $1,100 worth of gear that'll be going to that one person. You can watch the YouTube video from last night on chess rigs and to see what you get if you win. And there's a link in the description of every video and live stream to join Patreon. It's not an I love me, you should love me too page. Just dropped this morning on Patreon a feature-length video, hour-long video on the contents of our bug out trailer, designed to illustrate mistakes that we've made, which are clear in the video. My wife and I shot that video, and to explain concepts and give you an idea of the provisions that were in place on this bug out trailer. And so that you can learn from that and maybe upgrade or at a minimum spot check your own existing systems. That's on Patreon this morning. Yeah, I appreciate all you new patrons. Thank you very much for helping us support the show. Now, speaking of supporting the show, if you're one of those people that jumps off, it's time to go. Beat feet, skedaddle, get out of here. Have a blessed day. Shalom. And I know some of y'all, you know what I'm about to say, so you don't stick around for that. That's fine. You should know that the National Preparedness Month sale is changing at Refuge Medical due to supply chain constraints. So, today's the day. HSA, FSA eligible, health savings account, flexible spending accounts. You can use that stuff at refugemedical.com. You can use greenbacks, you can use checks, ACH, you can use, you slap your debit card onto the website and get whatever you want. Every kit is in stock, but according to the team, today is the last day for the current promo for National Preparedness Month. So we'll have a new promo that's going out in the newsletter tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. But as of right now, you spend $150 or more, you get a free cat tourniquet, Gen 7 Black Cat Tourniquet. Ready to go, new in the package. If you spend $300 or more, you get North American Rescue Bleeding Control Kit with a tourniquet, pressure bandage, wound packing gauze, Mylar blanket, a set of shears, and an instructional card. And if you spend $400 or more, you get a wound care bucket, which is badass. So, all that like all the kits are in stock. Like this is an arc. This is a red arc. Dud, can they see me?
Of course they can.
Okay, good. We're not looking at a pallet of water?
Nope.
Okay, so it's got these straps come with it. You can mount this on your headrest. ARC means Advanced Rip-Away Kit. I've run mine. I've got mine on my chest rig right now. I can also run it on my plate carrier. You pop this clasp, right? You've got a Committee on TCCC recommended windlass tourniquet on the outside. In this case, this is a soft T tourniquet. Pop this open. You got all your stuff in here. And it's on this shingle, which is a rip away. So you can rip this off your headrest in your car, or off your plate carrier, or off your chest rig, or whatever. And here you got a Sharpie, quick clot gauze, chest seals, a compression bandage, wound packing gauze, more chest seals, a set of shears, more wound packing gauze, nasal pharyngeal airway, fold flat duct tape, designed to treat critical bleeds, penetrating wounds, tension pneumothorax, etc. That's the ARC, the Advanced Rip-Away Kit. Made in America, guaranteed forever. If you break this, I'll replace it, no questions asked. If you use the components to save a life, I'll replace the components you used, no questions asked. In fact, it was funny, I got an email from a guy who was like, hey, yeah, we used a kit to render aid, and you say that you replace components free of charge, and we haven't gotten them back. And apparently he had been commenting on here rather than contacting sales@refugemedical.com. So we did a little bit of investigating. The kit he used wasn't a Refuge kit. Don't care. Replaced his components anyway. Good job. Glad you saved a life. And by the way to contact us is not to leave a comment on the Bear Independent YouTube channel.
Or to spam the chat.
Yeah, sales@refugemedical.com. But Mazel Tov, you saved a life. Good job. Here's replacement gear. Okay? So I'll even honor that for other people's kits. Go save lives. Okay? Go save lives. Go do good works. That's the ARC kit. This is the SOB kit. This one's in red with reflective. This one's mine in Coyote Tan. So these things come in red, coyote, black. I don't think the SOB's in gray. Multicam, Ranger green, etc. Small the back SOB kit. It's this big, okay? It's that thin. Here's an iPhone. Here's the kit. Like, it's pretty thin. Weighs as much as one loaded AR mag. Same concept. Pop this open, grab the red handle, pull out. You get this cute little handbag filled with life-saving gear, and as you can see, made in the USA. And then in here you got your Sharpie, combat gauze, quick clot combat gauze, flat compression bandage, wound packing gauze, nasal pharyngeal airway, gloves, chest seals, so forth and so on. Trauma kit, like if you have a war belt but you don't have a first aid kit on it, you need an SOB or an ARC. If you have a war belt and you have a subpar Chinese-made piece of garbage first aid kit on it, you need an SOB or an ARC.
Well, if people want to get a SOB quick, go subscribe to the Refuge Medical YouTube channel, and you could win a red SOB.
That's a good point. This is mine. It's been in testing and evaluation, which is funny to say because I own the damn company. I've had this one out in the wild for about a half a year. You can see it's got some dirt on it. And it's not coming apart at all. It's important to point out, we prototype these kits and we pressure test these kits with special forces units. That's intentional because they use their stuff. We also use our stuff, but they're out there every day using the stuff. And if they break it, I want to know how it failed so we can make sure it doesn't break next time. Here's mine. This is my SOB. This thing's been through the ringer for about a half a year. Good to go. And then we'll talk about the Bearfac real quick because I think, it's been a hot minute since we talked about the Bearfac, and the Bearfac 3.0 is in stock. All colors, gray, black, red with reflective, coyote green, or coyote tan, OD green, ranger green, marpat woodland, multicam. Hell, I can't remember what other colors it comes in. A lot of colors. This is Bearfac 3.0. Again, look at it. Like, it gets used. Okay? Good to go. Still going. Way this works is you got your ballistic nylon on the outside, gives you your portability and your durability. You pull this open, you grab the red handle. You're noticing a trend with all of our kits. You pull the, oh my gosh. There we go.
Whoa.
You pull the red handle. I know why. It got wet. Sucked up just a little bit. You pull the red handle with some gumption. Pop this kit open. And everything you need and nothing you don't is inside of it. This is designed to work the entirety of the March algorithm. Massive bleeding, airway, respiratory, circulation, head injury, hypothermia, and everything else. Okay? So right here on this first shingle, you got a Gen 7 cat tourniquet, you got your gloves, you got a Sharpie, you got a pressure bandage, and you got your medical tape. I like this about the medical tape. So it's like Velcroed on here so it won't go anywhere. but you can just yank it off as well. All right. In the back, we have what we call the stack, and also notice made in the USA, for real. Real people make these. In the back, grab your stack, pull it out. North American Rescue shears, nasopharyngeal airway, burn tech dressing, chest seals, 2 5x9 gauze pads. Okay. Down here in the bottom pouch, I've got my quick clot for wound packing, and I've got a trauma pack. In here, I've got Mylar blanket, compressed gauze for wound packing, triangle bandage, Curlex, fold flat duct tape, 2x2s, 4x4s, 5x9 gauze pads in here, an eye shield and an eye pad for massive bleeding, airway, respiratory, circulation, head injury, hypothermia, and everything else. That's the Bearpack 3.0. Our fulfillment time right now is bouncing around somewhere between 14 to 24 hours from the time we get your order to the time it ships. And it's on average shipped from our place to your house in 3 days. So when we say we have it in stock, we mean it. Your promo code is Bear Nation for free shipping, and use it. That way they know at the store that you like this stupid show, and that way you get free shipping, which is not nothing. Which, by the way, did you notice now FedEx is being stupid too? FedEx is being stupid. So we quit using UPS because UPS was being stupid. Now FedEx is being stupid as well. It's really obnoxious. I wish the free market would step up here and figure out a way to make a shipping company that doesn't have these ideological alignment issues. So, anywho, that's refugemedical.com. 51 lives saved to date. Y'all already know that. I'm proud of this company, man. Like, proud of this company. Started this damn thing in my barn right there just about 3 years ago. And now we're on 4 continents with all branches of the U.S. Armed Forces electively. 51 people are still alive because we showed up to work. We employ more than 20 families. It's badass. And so thank you for supporting our small businesses. Refuge training. If you need to know how to use this stuff, check out refugetraining.com. There's still dates in Waco and Dallas. Other than that, I think the training guys have a couple private classes to handle throughout the end of the year, and they are somewhere today. Where are they today? Our training guys. Carywood, Indiana, and just got done in Heppner, Oregon. And then they did an essential responder in Boise, Idaho, and now they're in Carywood, Idaho. That's good. And then I'll be traveling back to camp after that. So those guys get around. We appreciate Refuge Training very much. And if you need to know the fine art of how to not die, go to refugetraining.com to learn how to use this stuff. Then Grindstone Ministries, man, you guys are awesome. Thank you for pouring into us in our mission to rescue and really rehabilitate juvenile human trafficking survivors. Couldn't do it without y'all. Couldn't do it without y'all. We got a lot of goings on our end. We've got a couple dozen people in our care right now. Kiddos that were being habitually raped. And we just take their provision, protection, blessing really seriously. So keep us in prayer, keep them in prayer. And just tell you, please continue to consider us. You know, we can't do this without y'all pouring into us. And the fact that we can and that you do is a huge blessing, because there's been many times I thought, man, we're dead in the water. There's no way to keep doing this. And then the Bear Nation just shows up, and then we are not dead in the water. So thank you to every one of you who prays over us, every one of you who donates, every one of you who tithes, every one of you who's provided material support. Like, just can't do it without you. You are making an actual difference in the lives of these kids. So thanks. And that's the brief for today. Key takeaways here. If you live in a place where you're worried about warheads on foreheads, hey, don't live there. Go somewhere else. And if you're worried about that and your rainwater collection isn't figured out, if you're not figuring out how to plant your fall garden, if you haven't cut any firewood this season, or you don't know the last time you trained with your firearm, let alone your tourniquet, you probably got your priorities all messed up. Appreciate y'all. Have a blessed day. Shalom.